Just 2 days ago, this was a wildfire, now named the Cat Rock Fire, that burned up a couple hundred acres. And this is just 4 miles from my home. The evacuation line actually came within 2 miles of my home. And there's a lot of houses up there on the far hillside. And just looking this morning, I can see places where the fire burned within just a couple hundred yards of some major buildings. See right here where there was a gate, the fire actually burned right up to the gate, through the posts. This entire field is gone. Walk up here to this tree. So it came right up here to the edge of the road and singed this juniper tree really good. And as you can see, the skyline is completely filled with smoke from other wildfires that are all over Oregon right now. Hundreds of thousands of acres are still actively burning right now in Oregon. We're going to drive down the road here and see what else we can see. So we are at the next field down from the one that I was just looking at, and it's completely destroyed this entire field as well. There's some ranching tools and things out there that have been burned up. This one came right up to the fence, burned along the fence line. Again, they got it stopped at the highway, which is fantastic because there's houses on the other side of the road here that it could have burned up. I can see there's houses along the hill back there that the flames burned within just, again, a couple hundred yards of, and all the way down as far as you can see, just fields burned. I'm going to go down around the corner here and keep filming. So I just talked to Forest Service. They're out here still actively watching for hot spots. You can see the police tape that they had, fire line, do not cross. I guess fire tape, not police tape, but Forest Service gentleman just told me that it actually did burn up one barn. The view is pretty far out there, so I don't know if you can see it, but there's one building out there that I can see where the flames burned right up around the building. And again, he just told me that it did take out one barn, but there's some beautiful houses right there on the hill. And again, just like the previous places, the fire burned right up within a couple hundred yards, or maybe even just 100 yards of where the house is. So they got it stopped and they saved the houses. They had the planes and the helicopters and the firefighters. There's their cat and their truck sitting out there. And again, Forest Service is on site, so right here next to my vehicle, watching to make sure that there's no hot spots. All right, guys, so we're past the end of the fire. Again, reports are that it burned up 200 plus acres. They were able to get, again, planes and helicopters, aerial crews working on it immediately, and were able to get it under control. And other than the one barn, they were able to save all the houses. No lives were lost. There was evacuations going on. Stop here for just a second. So they still have their signs up at each end of where the fire was located. Again, Forest Service is out here actively watching for hot spots. They are alerting drivers on each end of the fire that there is still possible fire activity. And again, as you can see, the sky, so I'll film over here, look at that. That's all smoke. That is all smoke from wildfires. And last night, these roads, or actually the day before, 2 days now, these roads were completely blocked off at each end. So if you were in the woods out here camping or something, you were stuck. Unless you knew an alternative route out, which there are, you were stuck out here. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about here in just a minute. Another thing too is those fields, cows and horses were in danger, and they actually set up an emergency evacuation center for people to bring their livestock to. So that was a very helpful thing to have in that type of situation. Okay guys, Dan at Ochiko Bushcraft. If you don't know, if you're new to this channel, again, 2 days ago, just 4 miles from my house was the Cat Rock wildfire. Evacuations were in place for a while that came within 2 miles of my house. You can see why. The flame was spreading through these fields right up near people's houses, and it was heading my direction. But we're out here filming this morning, and we're going to talk about some, preparedness things that you can do when you come out to help protect yourself, help stay safe, and help, worst case scenario, escape. Because as I said, this road, as you can see here, that's the road to the mountains where we're headed right now. And you could not get out of the mountains this direction. If you would have been out camping, just out for a hike or whatever for the day, you would have had to spend an extra day, an extra night out in the woods, unless you knew an alternative route out. And there are alternative routes, and that's something you want to make sure of when you head into the backcountry during fire season, that you know another way out. So let's head on up into the woods and talk about some preparedness things that you can do. I gotta show you guys this. That sun, this is like a blood red sun because of the smoke. And again, it's just because we have, if you're not in Oregon, check out the Oregon News. We got hundreds of thousands of acres actively burning all over the state right now. Okay guys, as you enter into the Ochiko Forest, they have a sign posted here, and one of the requirements right now for fire season is that you have to have shovel and water with you if you're going to camp out here. No campfires obviously right now at all, any kind of fires, but even if you're just setting up a campsite with a trailer or whatever, you still are required to have shovel and water with you out here. So another thing you want to be aware of, guys, is where all your water resources are when you're out here. So I can tell you right now, I am standing in the bottom of a creek bed that just a short time ago was running water high. In fact, a couple months ago, it was flowing so fast it just about knocked you down coming through here. As you can see now, it's just as dry as can be. But there are some places where the water is still gathering and seeping above ground. There's a right here. There's a deep spot. And I'm actually going to walk up here for a second and show you guys where it's bubbling up above the ground. So there will be places, so even though it's dry along here, so you can see it's running back under the ground right here, but right here it's coming up above the ground, and as you can see, it's flowing fast. So coming out from underneath that willow branch is a fresh flow of water. And we're going to talk about that here in just a second too, as we get into gear that you should have out here to be prepared for wildfires. All right guys, again, Dan at Ochiko Bushcraft. If you're new to the channel, we are now out in the mountains. And so I've got some gear laid out here we're going to talk about. One thing I just want to add again, when you're out here, you need to know alternative escape routes. And I'm saying this because if you'd have been camped out here, I'm actually in a camping site right now. This is a very popular camping site that I'm parked in. And had someone been camped out here and needed to get to town, they were supposed to be home, they were supposed to be back to work the next day, whatever, they would not have been able to get out because the roads were closed due to the fire. Worst case scenario, the fire was out of control, they didn't contain it, and it was burning this direction because we're only a few miles from where the fire was. They would have needed to evacuate. And, you know, if there was not another way out by vehicle, then they would have been on foot. But there are alternative routes. You want to have some maps with you. I've got several maps in my truck of the area that you're going to be in and know alternative routes to get out. So let's talk about some gear. Okay, so we saw the sign down below. If you're going to camp out here right now, you have got to have a shovel. That's required. You need a shovel and you need water. I've got a gallon of water that's always behind my seat. I've got other bottles of water in there. You might carry one of those little folding buckets or a regular bucket with you to use for dumping water. But water and a shovel, and it doesn't have to be a full-size shovel. Something like this little compact Black & Decker will work just fine. I actually put a military cover on this so it can be hung off the side of a pack and carried with you if you needed to. Now, I don't know if the law on this has changed or not, but it used to be as fire season approached that if you were going to have a campfire, when they were allowed, you also had to have an axe. You were required to have a shovel, a gallon of water, and an axe or a Pulaski or something. So I actually picked this up at a yard sale. It's just a council tool axe, and cleaned up the handle and cleaned up the blade. And so a small lightweight axe like this does good. Axe, shovel, water. You should have those with you every time you're heading into the backcountry, year-round anyway. You know, you might need the axe and the shovel to help get you out of situation. You might need the water for hydration, but again, they are, you know, go-to tools that you need out here in wildfire season. Another thing to carry, I highly recommend some kind of a saw. You've checked your map. There's an alternative route out here, but it's an old Jeep trail. And there's some downed trees. Now, if they're big trees, obviously, you know, you can chop, which might take the whole day, or if you have a power saw. But if it's just some small trees, you know, carrying a nice size saw like this could get the tree down, get some brush out of the way. Maybe you just need to clear some brush or some limbs. And again, if you're stuck out here, of course, it could help you with shelter and things. So I'd recommend adding some kind of a saw to that situation. I actually have a little battery-powered power saw that I bring out here if I'm going to be camping and stuff. A couple other tools that I would say are very useful or could be very useful is, so my belt hatchet. When I take off, you know, as a bushcrafter, I always have my knife, my hatchet, and my folding saw. So this is a little Grants Forest Brook hand hatchet. This is going to help me clear brush. When it's not fire season, of course, you've seen in many videos, it helps me get fires, helps me build shelter. My own smaller folding saw, Silky Pocket Boy, which leather sheath, so it's right on my belt. And some kind of a knife, because you should always have a knife with you out here, period. Life-saving tool. This is the Field Buddy 5.5 from Architect Knives, which is now the official knife of Ochako Bushcraft. Highly recommend these. Extremely rugged. Design your own knife and steel and things on their website. And I've got mine customized on a dangler. It's extremely comfortable, maneuverable for me. So anytime I leave my vehicle, I've got my knife, I've got a saw, I've got a hatchet, I've got basic survival tools in my pockets like a Swiss Army knife, some cordage, a fire starting kit, which is the last thing that I need right now, but other times a year. And those are things that you should have with you and should have on you. Another option, if you're in an area that has lots of brush and you might need to clear brush, is a kukri. This is the one from K-Bar. I've used this a few times, and I can tell you this thing is just amazing. You need to get some limbs down, clear some trail of the brush, and maybe you need to clear brush out of the path of a fire or something. This is an amazing tool that will clear brush faster than just about anything else out here. So that's another option. Okay. So the other thing you want to carry, of course, if you've watched my channel, you know I preach it. Some kind of a small survival kit every single time you leave your home. I don't care if you're going downtown. There were people who might have just been out for a drive and planned on going home. The fire broke out. Guess what? They're not going home unless they know the alternative route. And sometimes there may not be an alternative route by vehicle, and you may be out on foot. Do you have water? Do you have food, snacks? Do you have something to make a shelter or something for emergency shelter? What about a small first aid kit? Cordage, the 5 C's or the 10 C's, just the basics. But I'm going to stress this point, especially in wildfire season. Even if you carry a bug out bag, a big backpack with stuff that you could live out here for months, you need to have something small and light that you can move quickly with. Okay, let's talk about that worst case scenario again. The fire's out of control. You don't have an alternative route by vehicle out of the area. You're gonna have to go on foot. If you cannot move fast with what you've got, if it's not light, so it doesn't slow you down, you're not gonna wanna take it because you're not gonna wanna be slowed down. You're not gonna wanna be tired out. So you need to have something lightweight. I've done recent videos on this. Go through my videos. This is a survival kit. You can see the full loadout, get some ideas on what you should carry. But again, I got everything covered. If right now I have to take off, okay, I've got water. I've got the resource in here to get water. We're going to go over that in a minute. I've got some stuff in here to make a shelter. I've got a small tarp. I have one of those emergency blankets from SOL Heat Sheet. Again, of course, there's a fire kit in here. Last thing I need right now. First aid, cordage, other tools, which you just saw. The hatchet, the knife, and the little folding saw will all be on my belt. So with all of this in mind, the things that you should and are required to carry out here during wildfire season, things that you definitely want to have in case you're on the other side of the fire and can't get out. I want to go into what I think is one of the absolute most important things to have in your kit. This is the LifeStraw Peak. Highly recommend it. 2 thumbs up. I've done a video review on this. Check it out because there's so many different ways to use it. You can use it with water bottles. You can use it with the CNOC bags, which I have a CNOC bag in here that I can scoop water into and then squeeze it down in here. But you can drink straight from the resource, and we're going to go do that. And that's the reason I recommend this. I know Grails are very popular. I have one in my vehicle survival kit. But you need something in your small lightweight kit. You need something that will allow you to get water straight from the source as you travel. That little stream that I just showed you, we have a very shallow stream coming up above ground. I can only get a little bit of water into a bottle, into a Grail, into a cup because the water is only, that deep. I may not have time to stop and to dig out a hole so that I can scoop out more water or sit there with my little cup and get, a couple ounces at a time until I finally get the Grail full or a water bottle full. But you need to hydrate. And I'm going to try to follow water sources. If I have to leave this area, I'm going to try to follow creeks out. Get down in valleys and follow creeks because the creeks out here will all eventually lead to a road and a way out. So I'm going to hydrate. And even if I fill my bottle, I'm going to save my bottle. So right now, I have a full bottle of water. As I travel, I'm not going to drink from this. I'm going to use this. So you want to have something that will allow you to go straight to the source as you are on the move. Again, LifeStraw Peak. Let's go try it out. Okay, if you're on the move and you need to hydrate as you're going, this might be, this time of year, the only type of water source you can find. Little spots where the water will come up above the ground again in the creeks. And this is very common out here. If you walk along a dry creek bed, you'll come to shaded areas where it's very common to see the water coming up above ground for a couple feet. Maybe sometimes it's only a foot and then going back underground. So you've got this one shallow area to get hydrated. So having something like this Life Straw allows me to get down here and get water straight from the source and get hydrated. So again, guys, I just have to say, Life Straw Peak, this thing has been an amazing piece of gear that I have used out here in just about every kind of water source you can imagine, and it has not failed. Check out my video review that I did on it. And again, cool thing about it, you can screw a water bottle on. If you got a plastic water bottle that you're carrying in your vehicle, which you should, and it's empty, you can fill it with water and from the creek and squeeze it right through this filter. Also use the little folding CNOC bags, which is in my survival kit. But again, you know, I like the Grail and, you know, filter systems like that. There's one in my vehicle. But in your little, you know, go bag, we'll call it, or your evacuation bag, your lightweight survival kit, something that you can drink straight from the source. Again, just imagine we're on the move, we're getting away from the fire. That's our only water source. I don't have time to dig out a hole to scoop up water to fill out the Grail. I don't have time to scoop out ounces at a time. I've got a full bottle of water that I started out with, and I don't want to use that water. But I can stick this right down into any water source and drink straight from that source, get fully hydrated, and then take off. And then later, if I have time to fill my bottle using like a CNOC bag or whatever, I can filter the water right through this, refill my bottle, and I'm good. So anyway, guys, Dan at Ochiko Bushcraft. I'll update you here in just a second. For those who don't want to watch any more of the video, that covers essentials that you should have out here in wildfire season as far as tools, you know, your survival kit. Again, there's a full loadout I recently did on what's in that small pack. You can go through my videos and check out, look at, you know, my survival kit. But just quick update for you guys, subscribers to the channel, and I pray and hope everyone who watches this video and enjoys it will subscribe. Fire season hit hard and fast, and that is one of the reasons that you haven't seen a video from me in about a month. It hit so fast. I had planned to come back out and do some fire making videos before it hit, and it came on fast and furious. We have broken records for the driest July in the history of Oregon. All over the state, records have been broken. The fires started happening, and you know, just 2 days ago, this one that we had, the Cat Rock fire, that's 4 miles from my house. And you know, I spent the night breathing the smoke, and the evacuation line was, I think, 2 miles away. So getting pretty scary. That took away from some of the plans that I had. And then fire season is a time of year that I get really busy doing some ranch work, helping a friend keep his trees alive that aren't real near a water source, so we have to pack water out to those trees. He's got, you know, some nice maples and things planted around his ranch. And also, if you've been following my other channel, I'll put that in the description if anybody would like to. I am training for a powerlifting competition, Hell's Canyon Showdown, next month in Ontario, Oregon. So the training, the working have been taking up a lot of my time, and again, fire season. And I'm cautious this time of year. For example, 4th of July weekend, hundreds and hundreds of people are camped out here up and down the road at every turnout, and I don't come out that weekend. Unfortunately, there's a lot of carelessness. Fires often get started, and I don't want to be up above them in a higher remote area when they're down below and could cause a fire. So right now I'm the only person out here. There is not another vehicle out here, or I haven't seen anyone in a campsite anywhere. And I imagine probably because of the fire being so close, if there was someone camped, they decided to just leave. But I will try to get out here and get some videos in. But again, usually July and August, I make less videos during those 2 months than any other time of the year because of how busy I get, the fire season, and restrictions that'll be put in place out here. There'll actually be restrictions on some of the roads you're allowed to take a vehicle down. And again, also, a lot of my time right now is being spent training. So anyway, guys, Dan at Ouchco Bushcraft, that's an update. Hope you guys liked this video. Really, really appreciate your support. Go back and watch some of my older videos. Again, I've done a review on this water filter. I've done a full review on my little survival kit. Some older videos on other options like a fanny pack. There's an old school fanny pack survival kit. Things like that. Small lightweight kits are what you want to have out here in wildfire season, so that if you have to evacuate and move on foot, you can go fast, you can travel light, but you still have essentials with you to keep you going, like this. Take care, everyone, and please stay safe out there.